Anti-tourism protests break out in Spain, Italy, and Portugal. Damn, everywhere's getting sick of foreigners. Anyway, anti-mass tourism campaigners say excessive levels of visitors in southern Europe are forcing locals out of affordable housing, raising the cost of living, and making city centres unusable. Um, this is actually something that's happening in Scotland. I'll get into that probably at the end. Protesters in Spain, Italy, and Portugal are calling for a curb on mass tourism, with Barcelona organisers telling demonstrators to bring water pistols to shoot at holidaymakers. Campaigners say excessive levels of tourism are forcing locals out of affordable housing, raising the cost of living, and making the city centres unusable. The latest in a growing number of protests in recent years, anti mass tourism demonstrations were planned in Barcelona, as well as 7 other Spanish cities, including Granada, Palma, and Ibiza. Protesters were also seen in the Portuguese capital, Lisbon, as well as in Italian hotspots, Venice, Genova, Palermo, Milan, and Naples, according to announcements issued by several of the organising groups. And there they are, they're actually shooting at tourists now with water pistols. It comes after Sky News reported on makeshift camps on the island of Ibiza, where dozens live with no electricity, water, or waste services. Don't know what that's got to do with tourists, but anyway, the Menos Turismo Me Vida, Less Tourism, More Life campaign group has told us we say enough to the destruction of the territory, to the precariousness, to the housing crisis, to the loss of rights. Actual shanty town. Carmen Naranjo, a 21-year-old student from Barcelona, told Sky News that some tourists see the Catalonian city as an amusement park. With the rise of social media and Airbnbs, it seems like we have given up our traditions, festivities, local spots, and so on in favour of mass tourism that does not properly engage with Spanish and Catalan culture and our small local businesses, she said. People come and see it as an amusement park to the point where they have had to close roads, some landmarks that locals enjoyed going to because of overcrowding. It is not fair for the people of Barcelona to have to endure precarious salaries and hospitality in order to serve mass tourism that stays in these short term rental apartments, pushing people out of the neighbourhoods we grew up in as we cannot afford housing anymore. This is a thing that's actually happening in some parts of Scotland and the Scottish Islands. That actually is a thing that's happening. But also, see when you have what's called like a seasonal city, where in the summer there's a lot of jobs, there's a lot of like, but unfortunately the summer jobs are always temporary, where people can't really get like gainful employment, where they're only employed for about 4 months of the year during the tourist season. That is kind of like bad for business. It's fine if you're a 16-year-old and it's a little temporary job. Who gives a shit? Right. But for people that want like long term employment, basically having like a big surge in economy and then an absolute lull in winter over and over again is kind of not good. There are a lot of seaside towns all over Britain that just died. Just completely died. Like, for example, me, my mum and dad, our whole family going back generations, always go for holidays and always went for holidays in St. Monnans on the Fife Coast. Right, to the point where several of the people in my family, that's where their ashes have been spread. Right, it was a very important location. And St. Monnans, St. better days. I went there a few months ago, and damn, it used to be the sprawling touristy place, and it just doesn't look good now. It doesn't look good anymore. Because I went there and it was just dead, like nothing was even open and all that. And this was like during the day that we went, and it's just not doing well. And basically, this whole, high economy, low economy, high economy, low economy, and but it's only a high economy for like the summer. Essentially, is just not good for the economy as a whole. Daniel Pardo, one of the organisers of the Barcelona protest, told the Associated Press it is very likely the water pistols will be back. In fact, we encourage people to bring their own. Tixema, I don't know how you pronounce that, Tixema Escorza, who lives in a 2 bedroom apartment in Barcelona's residential Gracia neighbourhood, also told the news agency, it is tough for me to imagine what to do next. If I leave, will I be contributing to Barcelona losing its essence that comes from its locals? But there comes a time when I'm fed up. He added that he has stopped using Airbnb when travelling, saying that in the end you realise that this is taking away housing from people. Jamie Rodriguez de Santiago, Airbnb's general director for Spain and Portugal, said that a lot of our politicians have found an easy scapegoat to blame for the inefficiencies of their policies in terms of housing and tourism over the last 10, 15, 20 years. If you look at the over tourism problem in Spain, it has been brewing for decades and probably since the 60s, he added, which is true. Basically, is as flying became cheaper and more economical for the average person, you can go in. That's why a lot of these seaside towns died. It's why a lot of these houses up in the Highlands, remember you could rent a little cabin for pretty cheap way back in the day. Now you can get like a week in like Tenerife or Lanzarote for the cost of what these places would be for 3 nights in an Airbnb. You could get a week in Lanzarote. So people are opting for Lanzarote, which is why a lot of these seaside towns have just died. Right, basically, flying made it cheap. Also, another fun fact: fake tans. You're not supposed to let people know they're fake. The reason that tanning became popular back in the day is because it meant you had been abroad and in the sun. It was a sign of affluence. It was a sign of wealth, which is why people started fake tanning themselves and lying about it and making it look like, oh, I've got money. Yeah, I left the country. That's how rich I am. And it was basically people were even using like old tea bags to like stain themselves and stuff like that to make it look like they'd been out of the country. It was a show of wealth. But now people pure go, oh, I've got my fake tan done. Psh, you're not supposed to tell people. You're supposed to trick people into thinking you had wealth. So the entire point of the whole thing vanished, and for some reason, people still get fake tans. Yeah, but anyway, if you look also, I don't like tanned women. I think it looks horrible. The whiter the better, if you ask me. Anyway, if you look at the over tourism, I've just read that, Mr. Rodriguez de Santiago noted that hotels are still the leading accommodation for tourists, with hotels in Barcelona accounting for 20 million tourists in 2024, compared to 12 million who used homes, according to local data. He also pointed out Barcelona's mayor Jaume Colboni backing the expansion of the city's international airport. Now, a problem that some places in Scotland do have is over tourism. For example, there is a small village on the shores of Loch Lomond called Luss. Now, the western coastal road that goes up through Glencoe is a very very important tourist hotspot. Right, I've recently just driven it. I was in the Isle of Skye a couple of weeks ago. Gorgeous, right? And I'm about to talk about it today. But basically, the people that live in Lust along the shores of Loch Lomond, the locals that actually live there, fucking hate the tourists. They hate them, but the problem is it's one of the first stops on that big bus journey that tourists get taken on from Glasgow Airport or from Glasgow. So they all stop there. Now, the local business owners kind of like it, like the people that own the little cafes and the little shops, they love it and it's a huge source of income. But for the people that just live there, they fucking hate it because tourists, like Chinese tourists, have even came up and like opened their doors and tried to walk into their houses, and it's just some angry little Scottish granny going, "Get the fuck out my house!" Right, and it's a huge problem. Right, so the business owners in Luss fucking love it. The locals fucking hate it. Also, property prices in Luss astronomical, which brings us to the Isle of Skye. Also, if you come to Scotland, even though we're here bitching about tourism, drive up the Western Road and drive through Glencoe. Beautiful, gorgeous drive. It's amazing. I did it when I went to the Isle of Skye. Now, the Isle of Skye, shit tons of Airbnbs. Lots of Airbnbs. They're all very expensive. Right? Hotels in Skye, very, very fucking expensive because it is a massive tourism hotspot. Basically, I've went to places all over Scotland, but see, as soon as you go along Glencoe or you go to the Isle of Skye, American accents and Chinese people everywhere. I'm from Clan MacLeod. Like, shut the fuck up. No, you're not. Right? But basically, you get them everywhere. They're all over the place. We went up to the Old Manor Store. Beautiful hike. You should definitely still do it. Yanks, Chinese, Jeets everywhere. Jeets are like climbing the Old Manor store in fucking suits and shit like that, man. Right? I don't know how the fuck they did it. None of them made it to the top. Right? But still, beautiful. Like, it's a hyper tourist place. The problem that the Isle of Skye and lots of people in the Scottish Isles are having is people see empty properties as a business opportunity. They are buying them and hiring them out as Airbnbs, which basically mean the people who live in Skye and have had their kids in Skye, their children have no hope in hell of affording a house where they lived and grew up. And it's become a very, very serious problem, to the point where a lot of these people that own these Airbnbs are all foreign. They're all foreign people from like far, far away. So they're not able to go in and clean the place for the next guest coming. So they hire locals. But what's happened now is there's Facebook groups being set up asking people, do not clean these properties for these foreign investors that are making property prices impossible for our children to afford. And if people get caught doing it, they get named and shamed in the Facebook groups. Right? And basically there's now a ban in the island going, nobody clean their houses, fuck them. Fuck them, nobody clean their houses because they're driving up the property prices. And it's a genuine issue. It is a genuine issue. But I made sure that I made sure that the Airbnb we got this little like shepherd's hut like cabin thing. It was actually very very nice, but it's on property owned by someone that actually lives there. Right, so before anybody gets really mad at me, the that we got, it's owned on property from someone who actually was born on the island and actually lives there. Right, so it's fine. But basically, yeah, it is a huge issue, and there's parts of Scotland facing the same thing as well. However, one thing is, Barcelona, if you don't want people coming to you, then stop having such a fucking gorgeous city, right? I've seen pictures of Barcelona. It's fucking stunning. I want to visit there, but, you know, I don't want to get scooshed in the fucking face.